What if your depression isn't a malfunction, but a message? What if the darkness you fear most isn't your enemy, but your teacher? When Friedrich Nietzsche looked into the abyss, he didn't call it sickness. He called it necessary. He believed despair is not the end. It's a doorway, a passage every soul must walk through to truly awaken. Most people run from their pain. They hide behind comfort, behind distractions, behind self-help slogans that promise healing without transformation. But Nietzsche whispered a more dangerous truth, that only through suffering we are reborn. In this video, we'll uncover what Nietzsche can teach us about depression, despair, and the strange necessity of darkness. We'll explore how he faced his own collapse, how he turned agony into wisdom, and how his ideas, the will to power, a more fatty and beyond good and evil, offer a radical way to see our suffering not as punishment, but as creation. By the end, you'll see why the darkness you hate might be the soil your soul has been waiting for. So stay till the end, because if you've ever felt broken, empty, or lost, what you're about to discover might just change how you see your pain forever. And if you seek deeper understanding of yourself and the human psyche, subscribe to The Hidden Self, where we explore the dark truths that wake you. Depression doesn't announce itself with thunder. It creeps in quietly, like dusk swallowing the horizon. For Nietzsche, this descent began early. Chronic pain, isolation, and illness shadowed much of his life. He wrote in letters of his migraines, vomiting, sleepless nights, and yet the deeper pain was invisible. It was a despair of meaninglessness. He asked, what if life has no purpose? What if God is dead and all that remains is silence? Most would drown and sue. CH thoughts. Nietzsche dove into them, because he believed that escaping suffering only multiplies it. To deny the darkness is to let it rule you from shadows. To face it is to begin transforming it. In our time, depression is often framed as an error to be fixed, a chemical imbalance, a symptom, a diagnosis. But Nietzsche saw it differently. He saw it as the crucible of the soul. The ancient Greeks spoke of katabasis, the descent into the underworld. For Nietzsche, depression was exactly that, a descent into the self where illusions burn away. It's in the silence of despair that we meet the question that terrifies us most. Who am I when all my roles, beliefs, and hopes fall apart? When Nietzsche lost his faith, his health, his relationships, everything that had defined him, he didn't find peace. He found the abyss, and yet he stayed there long enough to see that the abyss wasn't empty. It was alive. It was a raw, unshaped energy of becoming. Depression, then, is not the death of meaning. It's the death of false meaning. And the space it leaves behind, painful, terrifying, infinite, is where something true can finally emerge. Nietzsche would tell us, do not run from your suffering. Let it carve you open. Let it teach you what cannot be learned in comfort. Because the deeper the fall, the greater the possibility of rebirth. In his letters, Nietzsche confessed, I am a man who has suffered from every form of sickness. But it was not sickness that destroyed him. It was his response to it that forged his philosophy. Nietzsche was a man haunted by despair. Yet he refused to surrender to it. He believed suffering was not a curse, but a question. Each pain asked, will you become smaller because of me or greater? While others sought escape, Nietzsche sought understanding. He called this force within us the will to power, not the will to control others, but to transform oneself. The will to power is the inner drive that turns pain into strength, despair into clarity, weakness into creation. Every time we endure suffering without collapsing, every time we choose to rise, even trembling, we serve that will. Nietzsche's darkness was not romantic. It broke him physically and mentally. But through that breaking, he glimpsed something timeless. That life's meaning is not given. It is created, and it is created most powerfully in the fire of suffering. He wrote, One must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. That chaos, the storm of depression, is not proof that you are lost. It is proof that something new is trying to be born. Nietzsche's philosophy doesn't comfort. It confronts. It doesn't say you'll be fine. It asks, will you use your pain or will it use you? This is where depression changes from torment into transformation. When the suffering becomes unbearable, Nietzsche whispers, bear it anyway, and you will see that the very act of enduring is the act of becoming. In a world obsessed with quick cures and dopamine highs, Nietzsche reminds us that growth is slow, painful, and sacred. Depression, in his eyes, is not a malfunction of the mind. It's the awakening of the soul. When Nietzsche wrote Beyond Good and Evil, he wasn't merely challenging morality. He was challenging our comfort. He saw that most people inherit their values without questioning them. We call things good because society approves of them, and evil because society fears them. But Nietzsche asked, what if these labels are chains? What if your depression is not your failure, but your rebellion against a life that no longer fits your soul? He believed that when we reach the bottom, when everything collapses, we are forced to rebuild from nothing. That is when real freedom begins. Depression often strips us of everything we thought we knew. It's brutal. It kills illusions. But in that emptiness lies an invitation to redefine what truly matters. Nietzsche called this the revaluation of all values. It's the process of destroying inherited truths to uncover your own. Pain does not just hurt, it purifies. For Nietzsche, the end of meaning wasn't tragedy. It was opportunity. He said, the greatest events, they are not our loudest but our stillest hours. It's in silence, when the old self dies, that a new one begins to speak. Depression then becomes a sacred demolition, the tearing down of false gods, fake morals, and borrowed dreams. When nothing is left, you are finally free to ask, what is my truth? What is my good and evil? Nietzsche's challenge was radical. Don't just survive your darkness. Use it to rewrite your entire code. When despair wipes your world clean, it also gives you the pen to draw a new one. We spend our lives avoiding pain, as if comfort were salvation. But Nietzsche saw comfort as decay. He warned that too much ease makes the soul rot from within. He wrote, the path to greatness passes through the realm of suffering. To him, struggle wasn't punishment. It was the proof of life. The will to power demands challenge, friction, resistance. Because only against resistance can strength emerge. Depression feels like drowning. But Nietzsche would say, don't just fight the current. Learn to breathe underwater. Pain is not the opposite of growth. It is growth. Every wound carries within it the seed of transformation. He asked, do you want to have an easy life? Then always stay near the herd. But if you want to be free, you must go into the wilderness alone. Depression isolates us. It tears us away from the herd. Yet perhaps that isolation is sacred, a rite of passage toward individuality. Nietzsche believed that the stronger the soul, the more it must suffer, not because suffering is noble, but because depth cannot be formed in shallow waters. The oak grows strong not despite the storm, but because of it. Likewise, your darkness is not proof of weakness. It's proof that your roots are growing deeper. Suffering refines a soul the way fire refines gold. It burns away illusions until only essence remains. And what remains is unbreakable. Nietzsche's message is not easy. It asks you to love what hurts, to stay with what terrifies, to find power where you feel powerless. But in that paradox lies liberation, because the only way out is through. In his later writings, Nietzsche offered his most radical idea, amor fati, the love of one's fate. He wrote, I want to learn more and more to see as beautiful what is necessary in things. This is not resignation. It's revolution. To love your fate is to say yes, not just to joy, but to suffering, not just to triumph, but to tragedy, to see every wound as part of the story that made you. Depression tempts us to wish it all away, to say, if only this hadn't happened, I'd be happy. But Nietzsche's challenge is the opposite. Can you say yes even to this? To love fate is to accept that your darkest days are not detours. They are the path. That every heartbreak, every failure, every tear was a stroke in the masterpiece of your becoming. Nietzsche imagined eternal return, the idea that you must live this life again and again, eternally. Would you curse it or bless it? If you can say, yes, I would live this pain again, then you have reached a more fatty, the ultimate affirmation of life. This is not the false positivity of self-help. This is divine rebellion. To love your suffering is to rob it of its power. To embrace your fate is to transcend it. And in that moment, depression becomes transformation. The darkness becomes the dawn. Nietzsche never promised happiness. He promised awakening. He didn't teach us to escape pain. He taught us to become through it. To see despair not as an illness to be cured, but as a doorway to deeper consciousness. When he said, one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. He was describing the same inner storm we call depression, but he also offered a way through it. Face it, understand it, transmute it. Nietzsche's life was not easy. He died broken, misunderstood, alone, yet his ideas outlived him because they spoke to the timeless truth of the human spirit. That truth is this. We are not meant to escape the darkness. We are meant to illuminate it. So if you are in pain right now, if the world feels hollow, if you've lost hope, remember, even Nietzsche once walked that same road. He stared into the abyss and chose to keep creating. And you can too. Let your suffering be sacred. Let it strip you bare until only your essence remains. Let it become the forge where your truest self is born, because on the other side of despair is not death, it is rebirth. This is what Nietzsche taught me about my darkest days, that the light we seek is not found away from the darkness, but through it. If this message resonated with you, if you found meaning in the philosophy of suffering, subscribe to The Hidden Self. Here, we explore the hidden forces shaping your mind, the shadows that define your soul, and the ancient truths that help you rise again. Because the dark truths are not here to break you, but to wake you.